Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is on Qnity's three-step learning methodology. And I am so excited to introduce really the queen of this methodology and the fabulous Carrie Perkins. She has been with Qnity really since our inception, actually, and really was instrumental in helping us to create this three-step learning methodology. And so Carrie is the lead director of education at Qnity, and she is also director at Inspire Greatness Aveda Institutes. So Carrie, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, Erin, I'm so excited to be here. When you asked, did I want to have a conversation or do a webinar with a group of interested or curious educators, leaders, I'm like, on what topic? And then you said our learning methodology. And I said, yes, because I'm really, really passionate about this. So when I talk about this whole thing started with a conversation, like many great tools and practices at Qnity, starts with a conversation and a need. At one time I was a multi-location owner and made a transition into the world after using Qnity for many years, and as a trainer for Qnity, had a conversation with Tom that this needs to be shared with the world. How can we teach people to teach Qnity? And he challenged me at that moment that if we were going to create an education methodology or a training methodology, it had to be aligned with our success principles and follow other practices. Now, I know all of you in here that lead people, train people, getting people to take what you're teaching or sharing and using it can be really difficult when you have so many different learning types. So I was up for the challenge. And from that conversation, I went through, or I should say, because I'm a co-creator, Tom and I worked on this together, the success principles. It had to be simple. It had to use visuals. It needed to be a learning type that took learning in small steps. And from there, we had to create structures so that trainers and educators and managers and leaders could actually follow a structure. Because you know how it is in class or in meetings, we get lost, we get squirreled, spinning all over. So we had to create structure. And the test, would this work, is if the participants or the team members could go from knowing to doing. You know, you've taken classes and it's like all inspiring and you leave. And when you go back to put it into practice, we're either confused or not confident, so we don't do it. That was a big task, Erin, to like take all this information, how the brain learns, how we connect, I'm teasing you with the word, and put it in a Qnity inspired approach. So from all of that, we created the Triad of Learning. And it really is this simple. If you break down in small steps how a learner learns, you're going to put everything you've learned on how to train and educate. And this has been vetted from some of the best educators, and even professors have been intrigued by this process because it's so simple. But if I bucket connect, know, do in this triad, because we know that triangles are the strongest shape there is, and that each have equal weight. So I'm going to break this down. And after this training, I can't wait for you to share on the Qnity social media pages what you're doing with connect, know, do. So the first piece is connect. And as an educator, this is so important that you're connected to the content. This isn't just okay, here it is, I'm going to share. This is you getting really confident in what you're going to share. But I want to stress, this doesn't mean that you're the expert. We launched a program called Money for Schools, and some of you may be a part of this. And quickly, some of the educators, and even in my own schools, were saying, I can't teach this. I'm not the expert. I'm not a financial genius. All you have to know and connect to is what it is. Obviously, it can be really scary when you think that when you're standing in front of someone, they expect you to be the expert. But the truth is, we're there to guide and facilitate the learning. So if I go through the content and I'm connected to it, meaning I understand it, I'm scared about it, and we can be vulnerable to our audience, right? Or when we get ready to connect to the audience, depending on where you're at with the content, the big piece is here that you have to make it personal when you deliver it. Personal may mean I don't even know my feelings about, I'm going to use money because that is what really is forefront for me right now within my organization, that you're sharing, I'm learning this with you. And as we learn, for example, a concept called money in, money out, you as the educator have connected to it. And then you share with the audience. When I first heard this, I was like, oh my gosh, I spend all of this. And I didn't realize that those coffees added up to this. So in that, your audience is going to feel really connected to you because you're being authentic. So I want to really stress that connecting doesn't mean, it doesn't say connect and be the expert. It's just you have to come into the content that you're going to deliver and deliver it from a place that you know your ground truth. Okay. It also in here, a big piece of connecting is that you practice before you present it. So I'm going to role play. Even in this presentation, I've been walking around my room and I've been preparing. How am I going to share this so that when it sets me up for the next place or the next step in the connect is I need to connect to you in the audience. So when I show up and I start talking with you about this content, that you are connected to me and I'm connecting to you. So opening is everything. Erin did a great opening. She bragged about me and sent some love out about what I do. Thank you so much, Erin. Hopefully you're noticing that I'm engaging, I'm looking at you, and hi, Marche, I love that you're on here, and Jenna, you're here too. So I can't virtually make eye contact with you, but looking and acknowledging the audience is a great way for them to feel that you're connected to them. And then the third piece to this is at the end of the training, and this is how the triad turns, that when they leave your time with you, whether it's virtually, whether it's in class, in meeting, on a call, that when they leave your space, that they're now connected to the material. And then the cycle starts over, right? So now they have to connect to it, and then they're sharing it with their audience, and their audience may be their family members, their clients, because as students or team members, usually there's a ripple effect. They're sharing the information forward. So that's the connect piece. And as a trainer, we underestimate the time it takes to really be confident in the material. And that means I got to watch it, I've got to read it, and I've got to practice what I'm going to do. The next step in this connect, and I want to make sure that as you're putting together your programs or your curriculum, that it's not in sequence. Like you can start with the know. What do I want them to know? And I start to build out the knowingness. But this part is pretty simple. What is it that they need to know in this time together, right? Building in facts, data, practice, like, well, the doing is the practice, but in this knowing, what do I want them to walk away with? And later on in this session, I'm going to share with you how to touch each part of the brain and really look at that learning type, because it complements how do I deliver the know. Because we know that if you're doing the most talking as an educator, the student isn't doing the most learning. We also know if you lean heavily into the tell in training, the auditory learners are going to get it. And I'll tell you more about that. But the ones that need to play with it and interact with it don't. So in this, what do they need to know? And how we deliver it, here's some bullet points on that. We're going to talk about theory and measurements, video, materials, the demonstration for those visual learners that need to see you do it or interact. So that's the knowingness. The last part of the triad of learning is called the do. And this is where they can actually perform, execute, and commit. One of the, Erin, one of the biggest traps I see in training is part B here, commit. You know, we'll do a great job of sharing information. It can be dynamic and visual and engaging, and they walk away on fire for it. But if we don't take that step to get them to commit to trying something new when they leave that time with you, a lot of times it's like, oh, that was a great class. And 2 weeks later, what was that? Oh yeah, I remember that. So building in a commit in this process, make sure that your time spent and their time spent, we call it the ATM, their attention and time and money, there's a return on that. So that simply put is our triad of learning. Here are the ways that we deliver the do: activity scripts, next steps, quizzes, teach back, getting feedback. Erin, I'm going to go back to that. When you first heard about the Triad of Learning, what was your thought?
It's so interesting because one of the things that I, humbly speaking, love about Qnity is there's so many practices that throughout your life will connect differently with you, right? And so connect, know, do for a while was, I really looked at it from an education standpoint, and that's really the only way that I kind of applied it. Through a trainer certification. Carrie, you've trained, I don't know how many trainers, really utilizing this methodology. And then as I step back and look at it now, I'm like, why do I not structure all my meetings this way, right? Why do I not? We might be doing it inherently, but I think the biggest thing is connecting to your audience, whether it's a prospect, a partner, a client, so a new connection, then really understanding, what do you want them to know about you, about the conversation that you're having. And then most importantly, which I'm all about, is what is that call to action after every meeting? And so that's really something that I've been really applying in a very, very simple way. And so I know we have tons of educators and instructors and directors on this call here, but I'd really encourage you, apply this in the classroom. But I think you'll also find, as you get more, equipped to applying this, you'll start to see really how it can apply in other areas of your life. So I love it.
I use this in coaching, right? So when I'm sitting down and preparing for my audience, is this person coming in who's already fearful of what the conversation may be, that I'm going to connect. What do we really need to talk about and do? And afterwards, both people feel that it was a meaningful time and supportive, and not in a critical way, but in a let's do this together way. So I've seen Connect, Know, Do fall into a lot of areas in leadership. But let's talk about this, Erin. This is an example of how Do shows up in the money program.
Absolutely. One of my favorite parts about this program is every lesson ends with a do, really. And so we're really encouraging students to connect them with the information, make sure they know it and they're tested on what they know and they're able to interact with it. But most importantly, how can we get them into a state of action with their money? And so this is one example of the do's, which happens to be from one lesson in module 3, which is where we have them build a little mini P&L to really understand their own money in versus money out, and what a profit means and what profit means for a household, to really just get them into practice, right? We're not having them build a full P&L for a business. We're having them take really, really small steps to take some action around that lesson, which I love.
Oh yeah, so I have seen this. We're going to talk about money, and the eyes glaze over. And what really happens as a coach, trainer, leader is this is that connection piece, build this trust and say that as you walk through this on the other end, you will realize how simple the learning is. And then pretty soon it starts to take a momentum because they're seeing these small steps, these small gains, this isn't scary. Yeah, we're having one little concept about money in, one little conversation about money out. And instead of this big picture, you have to be at this place. It's the beautiful piece when it comes to this money program. It follows that simplicity and the success principles. Love it. So that, you guys, is the Triad of Learning. And I know that I'm making it sound super simple, and it truly is. If you broke these down in small steps, took a concept, I want to talk to people about the power of preparing for a great day. Okay, so how am I going to connect my audience, or what content do I want to bring? And how will I share it, connect with them? Then what do I need to know? What do they need to know about what it takes to prepare for a great day? And then how do I get them to practice preparing for a great day, the do behind it? And then what will be the commitment? Maybe they'll try the next client that they're working with, and that will be their do, and you get to high five them. Literally, look at that. We just prepared a class in less than 30 seconds. It is that simple, Erin. Super simple. All right. So the other piece, you guys, as trainers, now I have taken many certifications, and this was the hard part for me. Our brain is very complex. And at Qnity, we really identify there is how to utilize the left and the right brain, whole brain learning. And from that, have complemented this Triad of Learning with 4 times 4 ways. And 4 times 4 ways shows up in our Prosper program as a way of communicating. In the age of 2, there's too much information, too much to do, too many choices. We go in and out of focus all the time. And I've talked with many trainers that sometimes they teach a class and people are not staying focused. People, it's like they're looking, but they're not really present. And this is the age of 2. So when we think about, I want them to walk away with this knowingness and this doingness, how do I engage them in class? And this is this beautiful piece of 4 times 4 ways. So let's break it down. Verbal. 30% of the population are auditory learners. Only 30%. And if you think back how often we train and lean into talking, 75% of those 30 will retain the information. So there's a big gap from how most people deliver information. And we'll do this through storytelling, discussion, conversation, video, and collaboration. Storytelling engages the heart. And I really do, in our trainer certification, and later if you're interested in that, you can reach out to Erin. We go deep into the power of storytelling and how to create a great story to make your experience for your team or your class more engaging. So this isn't just verbal isn't left or right. There's all aspects. We're firing all parts of the brain. The next piece is verbal. People will only remember 20% of what you say, but that number jumps to 80% when you repeat it. Now, in the spirit of this, I want you to repeat it with me. People, go ahead now. I can't hear you, but I'm going to trust that everyone on this call is repeating this with me. People will only remember 20% of what you say, but that number jumps to 80 when you repeat it. Now, studies show that you're more likely to retain this. So if I come back in a week and I ask you those statistics, for those of you that actually repeated and played along, you're going to remember this. Earlier, I also talked about the more that your students or team members are in a coaching session or on a call, they're doing the most talking, they're doing the most learning. All right. Next one, 80% of beauty wellness professionals identify themselves as visual learners. Now, how do we know this? Is every course, most of our programs, even most of our workshops, we will do a Qnity pre-program assessment. And from that, and we have thousands because we've been doing this for a long time. And we know that most of you say you're visual learners. So visual communication is passing it through gestures, signs, posters, films. You know that saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, actually, we process images 60,000 times faster than we do any other type of stimulus, like any other way to present. Visual is going to be the way. And I keep going back to this trainer certification because we dive deep into it, like how to really maximize and use visuals to your for your strength and connection. But for this presentation, I'll give you some bullet points to make sure that in your training that you're using one of these, or maybe even others that you use as visuals: PowerPoints, illustrations, photos, videos, flip charts, demonstrations, sketches, and icons. Now, our money program, I can tell you as students are watching it, it's well laid out. It's got visuals, there's video content in there. There's, I haven't gotten to the other one. Most of all the pieces of our 4 times 4 way live in there, but the visual presentation is so beautiful. So if you haven't seen it and you're curious, Erin, you may have some people reaching out. I can see people super excited. Will you explain this image? I mean, this is what really, well, I'm gonna stop. Erin, I would love for you to explain this image.
Yeah. And so I think one thing to note is when Carrie's teaching you all this, and when we're kind of sharing our success principles, we live and breathe this at Qnity. We really practice what we preach. So for those of you who are actually in the money program, who have seen the full product, who have seen it, you know, in the classroom with their students, who have gone through it, that product takes a lot of time to get to that end product. And so what you're looking at here is Tom, who's for those of you who don't know, he's our CEO and founder. And He's also using 9 grids, which are a core Qnity tool. I see a couple people love 9 grids in this classroom. They are indeed built, and these modules were built on 9 grids. So he's actually sharing the visuals to our video editor to really show kind of the intention of each video and each lesson, and how to really bring that to life. And then now what you see is a full lesson and technology and videos and questions, but it really started in this visual, simple process.
I love it. Most of the people that have taken, and I don't have a solid statistic on this, but most of the people that have taken the trainer certification are going through this, and I have my educators within the campus doing a 9 grid like this with Connect No Do and just writing it out. I talked earlier, but you can see it doesn't even have to be this visual and beautiful, just black and white. Here's what needs to go in here. That tool is a structure for you to put your thoughts in and follow. But I do love the images here. Okay, so the next piece to our 4 times 4 ways in learning is studies show all types of learners tend to process and retain information longer when they move or engage with their hands. Now, this could be when you are actually having them interact with it. So you've done the demonstration in the knowing piece. Now they get to practice it. They get to put it in action, or they get to try the concept on, right? And whether when we say moving their hands or moving in the material, this could be where the next piece of our 4 times 4 ways comes in, and that'll be written. I love this image. This was taken straight from our trainer certification. This is Raina and Kristen. They're recently from our most current class doing a life-size 9 grid. But in play, there's role playing, you're discovering a gallery stroll. For those of you who know what a gallery stroll is, they're walking around the room. You can even do a gallery stroll virtually, right? Because you're having them go in between different concepts or breaking out in rooms and discussion. I love this next one where it says risk taking. A lot of times people are really afraid to try it on. And when you can get them to say, I know it's not now, but if you pretend or you play or you just try, what would it look like for you? Because all change really, well, we have a quote and we love to say it, all change starts with progress starts with telling the truth. And from that truth, we know what we need to do differently, because to have a different result, we've got to try something different. So all of this lives in the play. So practicing concepts is another. Fun in play, in class, thumbs up. Right now, I want everyone to give me a thumbs up in the chat or on your thing. Yeah, see, look at that. That put smile. Not only did I see a thumb up, everyone was smiling. Love it. Clap for yes, no, shout out, highly engaging, interacting. So you might not have, we're talking about money, but you could be in a class and say, who agrees? Give me a whoop whoop. And then everybody gets super excited and lifts the energy around a conversation that usually people are fearful of. So we know that this helps them be more engaged. The last one is called, or the last part of 4 times 4 ways is written. And this is really, it was really interesting as we were, we did a lot of study. This whole, as simple as this sounds, there were hundreds of hours put in to the study and fact, and how are we going to give a methodology or put together that really worked? So one of the things that was uncovered is this Princeton study where they took a group of students that transcribed. They were in class and they were typing in their notes. And then there was a group of students that hand wrote their notes. Now you can imagine, and Erin, you are a super fast typer, how fast or how much data you can put in when you're typing and how much you can put in when you're writing. So the people that were writing had less content, less notes compared to the people that were typing. But the wild and crazy thing is that the people that wrote down retain the information more. So we know, oh, Erin, you unmuted.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about this because a lot of the schools that we work with and a lot of schools on here, and for good reason, are really trying to go paperless in many ways, right? To really make sure they minimize their their footprint on the environment and, the importance of going green, which we're both very passionate about. But how do you see this show up in the classroom? Because today, many students are using tablets for learning, and this entire program can be done on their tablets. Do you see students also writing? I see in the chat box, everyone says lots of students still bring their notebooks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see because, in tablets, they have the pencils now, and really stressing them to bring that. It's not on paper, but we're still writing and encourage that. As an educator, what I do in this case is the activities on the walls, the group activities. I might bring in a 9th grade, place that in front of everyone and get them writing, not the whole program, but key concepts I really want them to take in, right? So mixing it up. And if you're really opposed to have any writing at all written, just know that typing in or interacting, you're going to have to follow up with those questions and really get into the play for it to stick, right? But our program is built in when you're working with and you're going to give them a tutorial. So there's this element where they're going to have to retain that information and they're typing it in. But we just know with the studies that the power of pen to paper. You could see here where sitting in class, people are taking notes. These were their ahas in a particular class. When people take that time, the things that they wrote on here, if I went back to these two people a year from now and I said, what do you remember about Qnity? Well, both of them I know are still using Qnity, but what would you remember about that first time you experienced Qnity? I would really bet, I'm not a really big better, but I would really bet that some of the things they would say would be written here. So I know that in your ask about the environmental impact, I think it'd be minimized by identifying what's really essential and then deciding where they can do the learning just in the other ways. All right, so students who longhand remembered more and had a deeper understanding of the material, and workbooks, step-by-step activities, note-taking, and journaling. Our 9th grade journals are brilliant for learning and allow the participants to write down what they find value in. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples. You can see this is a 9th grade, and I know these are printable, but not necessary. They can actually do these and write in or type in, but you can really sink the point home as the educator. Maybe they're doing distance learning. They come back into class and you're asking the questions. You're doing a pop quiz or you're getting them to interact and play with it. So let me go through a couple more ways or different 9th grades to show with this. Has everyone on here seen a 9th grade? Look, there's 2 people that haven't. This is their first time.
Oh.
Love that. All right, you guys. First way is the most used way. I'm just going to tell you. It's called the mind map. It's where you put a thought in the middle and then you write 8 things, up to 8 things. Let me say that because sometimes you're not going to have 8, up to 8 things about that. So here's a little boy. Tom always laughs when he shares this 9th grade, and it makes most people, I see smiles, I see hearts. They heard the story. This little boy wanted a little dog. He wrote this 9th grade and said, Mom, here's what I want. Here's how I'm going to get it. And passionate about it, even though his spelling is off a little, it's super cute and we know exactly what he wants. Update, he did get the dog. So the next way is the step-by-step. This one is where you take a process that you want to put a sequence to, or an idea or something that has to take a mind map and put it in an order. So here you could see this is done in a step-by-step, a recruitment plan. So first we're going to connect with schools and be a constant name and face. And I won't go through each of these, just the example of what a step-by-step 9th grade looks like. The third way is called a storyboard. And it's where the top 3 or the side 3, so you could do this, you put your idea or concepts and then the other 2 support it. So you can see this save, spend, and then underneath you would write what ideas or what can I do to support saving, spending, or investing. Now you can see here, across the top here is facts, feelings, that's 1 column, feedback, 1 column, and focus. Then what this trainer did was put names, and then so it's a double storyboard, right? So for Sky, what are in coaching, this is in using in coaching, what are the facts and feelings? What feedback do I want to give this person? What focus for the upcoming? So it really is a place, ninth grades are organizing thoughts, creating, getting on the same page, really our most useful tool. I'm not going to say impactful because I'm blown away with how these tools are changing lives, but this is the most used tool by far. So there there's the connect, no, do. Layered in is 4 times 4 ways. And Erin, I asked you earlier about what you're noticing. I'm thinking it's time that we take them in and show. So I'm going to stop my share and have you walk them into a real example of how connect, no, do shows up.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carrie. I mean, I think for everyone watching, I hope that you can really take this and start to apply it in the classroom and in so many other areas of your life. So please keep us posted on how this shows up for you and how you start to bring it to life. But I'm going to show you this. I know we have many of you that are actually Money by Qnity schools. So thank you so much for that. So this will be a little bit of a repeat, but also a reminder. So as you go through these, as you're going through the classroom, bringing this to your students, you'll now be able to understand that everything a part of this program was very deeply structured, right? It wasn't like we slapped stuff on. It was really, really thought out. So let me just take you to an example of where this shows up. So I'm just picking a random lesson in the program. So you'll see within the program, there's 3 distinct learning objectives, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet versus give a full demo, just because I know we've got a lot of existing money schools on. But for those of you who don't know, I'm actually taking you into the back end of this program. There's a words that matter, which is just key vocabulary from the program. There's an instructional video. So Carrie, this would be the visual, right? So it's very visual throughout the video. You'll see instructional style, which is more verbal, and then specific examples all around visuals. Then I do want to show you the cue card because you will recognize what this tool came from. There's a cue card that actually is always in the structure of the 9 grids. So this is considered the recap of the video. And you can see students can actually just write in their answers right in these boxes. And it really goes through. And can anyone tell me what format of a 9 grid this one is at right now? Is it a mind map? Is it a storyboard or a step-by-step?
Laura said storyboard.
Yes.
Storyboard.
I love it. So you can see and throughout the video, there's 3 distinct learning pauses, and every lesson follows the same structure. So there's a learning pause that covers what is a P&L. So they kind of write their takeaways. Why is it important? And how is it utilized? So this is an example of the storyboard methodology, really, and how it shows up in this program in this distinct lesson. And so all the other ones are also either mind map, step-by-step, or storyboard. But what I also want to show you is to help you see again where these areas show up. So you can see we have a section entirely on connect, no, do. That is the process that we're also really having you guide your students through. And so we ask a connect question where students really reflect on a personal P&L and how they can really reflect on the benefit it might have for them. Then we have a no, which is a quiz. So we really recap them on kind of the most important things they need to know. I'll show you what that looks like here. So there's a quick little quiz. And it's really, we only kept it to 8 questions to make sure it was really the most important things they needed to know. And then you'll notice the do section, which is the activity. So Carrie showed, I think this is the exact lesson we showed in the example. This is the money in, money out exercise. So they actually go through and look at their little mini P&L for themselves and really start to put it into practice. And that can kind of build the foundation for the next skill with this. So we are really, really excited about this program. And again, for all of you that are using the money program, please tell us how it's working. Start to even look at other elements of the program, like the connect, no, do, and how you can strengthen the learning for your students. And again, I really want to reiterate what Carrie said at the start of this. When it comes to the connecting, you do not have to be an expert on money to instruct and facilitate this program. It's built out in a way that all you have to do, connect with it, figure out, we can all connect with money. We all can connect with money in some ways or not. So use that as kind of the way to build your confidence with this. And I promise you, you'll start to see different results. And for those of you who are not using the money program, feel free to connect with us. We would love to work with you in your school. So Carrie, any other thoughts and final reflections?
Well, we're talking a lot about, I would love for you to share why this money program, for those of you who are still on here, the money program, why did we create it? Because I can see the value and why it's important for for those who don't know this, I am a director of student experience for 5 different Aveda Institutes, soon to be more. We know that this is a super added value to their experience at our school. Why was money created?
You know, to me, there's a lot of things I'm passionate about Qnity, and Qnity, you know, for all of our team members, it's so funny because when you ask someone what they're most passionate about, is it the tools? Is it the learning? You know, some of our team members like you and Tom love to geek out on learning and development, right? You know, that, and so that's what's so beautiful about it. But what I love the most and what I really believe and what I'm most personally passionate about is the topic of not only financial literacy, but financial wellness in professional beauty. And really, this has been such an underserved industry for so many years. And there's so many myths and misconceptions and poor perceptions around what people in this career path do. And they're just not true. And so what we really want to do is elevate the financial wellness of this entire industry and really demonstrate that this can be a highly financially successful career for so many. You got to put the work in, but that's like anything, right? Anything you have to put the work in. And so you can't be financially well though, and actually have outcomes and behaviors that lead to financial success without financial literacy and without financial understanding. And so that's really where this program starts, is really before students actually enter the workforce, teaching them the importance of financial literacy so they can understand the basics. So once they enter the workforce, they're going to be light years ahead of so many others that frankly had to learn the hard way, because none of us get this type of education. And so we also—
Or they leave the industry because they can't make it. They don't understand what it takes to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to work hard, but it's so possible. And if you understand the basic principles, you can get places really far. You know, Carrie, one of the things that we illustrate in another topic of Qnity, which is about money in and really about driving performance once you're actually on the floor, we teach a little something called 2-number growth, and we illustrate it to how to drive a car, right? You know, you don't have to be a car mechanic to drive from Philadelphia to Colorado. You do have to understand how to read the basics of a dashboard. And we always ask, what are the 2 numbers you kind of never lose track of? So I want everyone to just kind of visualize this. They're driving, you know, 10 hours. What are the 2 things on your dashboard you're never really going to lose sight of? Anyone, any guesses?
Jenna said gas.
Gas is one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other, any guesses? Yes.
Speed.
So speed and gas, right? I don't have to be a car mechanic. We can all drive a car and we can get to our destination successfully. With money, it's the same principles. There's more principles, of course, but we really believe that that is possible. And so I am so passionate about this program. I'm so passionate about the way that we approach it in a very simple, visual, and approachable way. Another thing, Carrie, that we know is we actually do a pre-program survey around this program that asks students, do you experience fear or angst around money? Or it's actually the direct question we ask is, do you have math anxiety? Next bullet is, meaning, do you feel a sense of fear, angst, or dread when it comes to math or money? And over 68% say yes. And so we know this is a topic that brings up a lot of emotion, a lot of fear, and a lot of people have really negative money stories. And so you can't change that. If you avoid it, you have to dive in. And so really, you know, we're all believers in the power of education. So it starts with education. So that's why we created it. We also noticed a huge gap in the financial literacy and acumen of not even just professionals, but business owners. And so we really have, so we're kind of changing it. We like to say, this is a very, from great cradle to grave, really, right? Before someone enters the industry and when someone exits the industry, to make sure that they can have strong financial skills, make money, manage money, and then be able to retire with comfort and ease.
I love it. And I can see the value. I see it from previous salon, when owning my company and what, 220 employees, how many of them really struggled and didn't even know what their paycheck meant,
Yes.
to now being in the school industry and also all the coaching that I've done, how powerful it is to be clear. Because there's two types. You either light up like a ping pong machine, woohoo, love money, or you've got like an ostrich, your head in the sand. I'm like, I'm just going to avoid it. So Qnity has made it simple.
Yeah.
Using visuals and engaging the head and the heart. It's beautiful. Erin, thank you for inviting me to this. I will come anytime to share, because I know at Qnity, we want to have an impact and we want people to thrive and be prosperous and in all areas. Right? So thank you for including me.
Thank you, Carrie. Everyone, this marks the end of the webinar. Thank you so much. And we hope to hear from you soon.